Is GBC News, the headlines. The child abuse trial of Clayton Busto, a former teacher and scout leader, begins at the Supreme Court. Justice Minister says he intends to pass a law to keep sex offenders behind bars for longer. The conflicts of interest bill debate continues, with the government accusing the opposition of misinformation. And the Education Minister says the standard of education in Gibraltar is much better than the average school in the UK. Good evening. The jury in the child abuse trial of Clayton Busto has heard part of the police interview of one of the complainants, who said he felt he was groomed. Mr. Busto, a former teacher and scout leader, is charged with 19 counts of sexual offences against children. The alleged victim, referred to as Mr. A, was 14 when the abuse was said to have started and has made 11 of the 19 complaints. He told police that at the time he did not feel forced, but said that as an adult he struggled to come to terms with what happened. Mr. Busto, who was in his 30s at the time of the allegations made by Mr. A, denies all charges.
During the Crown's opening speech, they told the jury the evidence will show a clear and consistent pattern of behaviour. Mr. Busto is accused of using his role as a teacher, scout leader and mentor to gain access to young people. The jury was told the case involves 4 complainants, with the alleged offences dating back to between 2007 and 2016. Director of Prosecutions Christian Roca told the jury the defence may argue there was collusion between the complainants, but questioned why they would put themselves through a public trial, saying the common denominator in the case is the defendant. The jury's opening piece of evidence was the police interview of the complainant referred to in court as Mr. A. 10 of the 19 counts on the indictment relate to him. He told police Mr. Busto added him on social media and that they became close. Mr. A described himself as shy and said the defendant became one of his only friends, making him feel cared for. He said they would chat for hours and that Mr. Busto would make sure they met regularly, including taking him to scouts and arranging other activities. He said the relationship later became sexualized and described occasions where other young people were present. Mr. A said he now believes he was groomed by Clayton Busto. For the defence, Mr. Finch-Marsh said the case turns largely on the age of the complainants and whether the alleged conduct falls within the offences charged. Mr. Finch-Marsh said the Crown had already told the jury the defence would argue the complainants colluded. He said the defence will seek to prove that they did. He also questioned the police investigation, saying it was focused on securing a prosecution rather than finding the truth. Clayton Busto is charged with 19 counts of sexual offences against children. He denies all charges.
The number of sex offenders registered in Gibraltar has increased to 52. This represents a rise of almost 25% since February last year. The figure includes those who are currently out of jurisdiction, as well as 9 who are in prison. Justice Minister Nigel Feetham intends to pass a law to keep sex offenders behind bars for longer. Under the proposed legislation, offenders convicted of certain sexual offences and sentenced to more than a year would be eligible for parole only after serving at least 3/4 of their sentence. Mr. Feetham is also looking to increase the maximum sentence of those convicted in relation to indecent photographs of children by 40%. The Justice Minister told Katie Docker the government has an obligation to protect the public.
Katie, we've seen a number of high-profile cases coming before the courts. That has attracted a lot of public scrutiny and indeed public concern. As the Justice Minister, I share that concern. It makes me sick in the stomach, quite frankly, when I read the judgments, the sentencing rulings by the judges, the horrendous things that are being done to children. I'm a father. I hope to be a grandfather as well. And therefore, it's not just about protecting my children and protecting my future grandchildren. It's making sure that we protect all our children, all our grandchildren.
You've also mentioned looking into chemical castration. Can you confirm what stage those discussions are currently at, and what evidence have you seen from other jurisdictions around whether chemical castration does reduce reoffending?
We've got to just make clear what that means in practice, because if we forget the word castration, what it means is a chemical administration in order to reduce sexual desire from those that have committed horrendous crimes. And the reason why we've consulted the UK government is twofold. First of all, we've got to ensure that whatever legislation we introduce, if indeed we take the policy decision to do so, is consistent with our international obligations and indeed doesn't breach human rights obligations. And that is essential because, of course, any legislation which is passed in the Gibraltar Parliament needs the royal assent. Secondly, the Justice Secretary, she went public in the UK Parliament saying that she was also considering chemical castration. So I'm trying to engage with the relevant authorities in the UK to see where they are at in relation to this.
Some people will welcome tougher measures, while others may raise ethical concerns and human rights concerns. How do you balance those competing arguments?
Human rights generally are not unqualified rights. Human rights are also subject to exception. One of the most significant exceptions is the protection of the public. I would like to talk about the human rights of children, the human rights of victims. That is the debate that I think we ought to be having.
Do you think that Gibraltar has a problem with sex offenders?
If you take that figure in isolation, Katie, I think there are 34 inmates in prison, of which I think roughly probably 9 are sexual offenders. It's higher than in other countries. I think that is definitely the case. But you also see some very high-profile cases in other parts of the world. And let me say this, I commend the RGP, the police, for the sterling work that they're doing in relation to these cases. These cases are now coming to light. Some of them were offences that happened many, many years ago, so I commend the RGP. I encourage more people to come forward. If you've been a victim of crime, I encourage you to do so. You will get every support possible, because like I've said publicly on a number of occasions, Katie, compassion is not for the offender of a crime. Compassion is for the victim. My message to those that indulge in this disgusting behavior is that if you offend, you will pay for the crime. We are passing legislation to ensure that you spend more time in prison. Don't even think about eligibility for parole if you are a risk to the public in Gibraltar.
Figures from the prosecution show there are currently 17 sexual offence cases going through the court system. The government says it's sought the detailed reasoning of the independent draftsman of the Conflict of Interests Bill, Daniel Greenberg, in order to reassure the public. It says it's clear the opposition leader does not want to admit he's wrong on the effect of the bill and is instead choosing to spread misinformation that serves his own political agenda.
The government states Daniel Greenberg has confirmed the priorities for drafting the bill have been, in accordance with the principles applied to Gibraltar's legislative code in general, clarity, certainty and enforceability. The bill, it says, covers all the substantive issues addressed by the Canadian Act and additional issues relating to the conduct of public business, for example, in relation to keeping records of meetings. According to Mr. Greenberg, the main differences in approach are that the bill moves away from overly restrictive definitions or rules that create avoidance opportunities, and on uncertain concepts that create enforcement difficulties. Unlike the Canadian Act, it gives statutory expression to fundamental principles of public life and imposes overarching and directly enforceable duties on public officials. It also gives statutory expression to the ministerial code as recommended. The bill, the government says, uses a legislative hierarchy to ensure that principles and fundamental provisions are set out in the primary legislation, and that secondary legislation is used to provide certainty, as well as flexibility to update provisions. It also allows for guidance and other quasi-legislation so the public service understands the purpose and effect of the legislation and how to implement it effectively. On enforcement, the bill enacts a spectrum ranging from criminal offences to formal and informal action by the Independent Commissioner of Standards, so that minor or inadvertent mistakes can be corrected in a proportionate manner and criminality reserved as an effective deterrent for deliberate misconduct. It also uses a network of compliance officers and other processes to ensure that training and education are central to the bill's compliance strategy.
The Minister for Education says the standard of education is much better in Gibraltar than in the average school in the UK. Speaking on Gibraltar today, John Cordes said, therefore, local educators do not believe the change in school summer hours will have a detrimental effect on children. Kellyanne Borge asked him why Gibraltar students should have fewer school days than their UK counterparts.
Already we were doing half days, which is actually 2/3 days. Effectively, it was about 181 and a half days, not 191. We are now going to have 178. If you consider that for the 19 days or so of half days, it's generally agreed, particularly in secondary, that it wasn't really efficient and effective education-wise, and you take those 19 away from 191, it was 172 effective days. We're going to have 178 days now. Another thing that we've got to remember is that
just to clarify, because the teachers union said last week it would be 172, with 7 of them being half days now, so it works out at around 169. Is that more now?
Sorry.
The teachers union last week, they said it would be 172 days, but 7 of them are half days.
They are taking away inset days.
Right. Where children will be at school.
The math is the same. It's just inset days.
So children or students will be in school for around 169 days a year.
But when we compare it to the UK, I think we have to remember that the standard of education in Gibraltar is much better, certainly, than the average school in UK. I think that the investment that we have made in new schools, in many more teachers, in many more special needs learning support assistants, a learning support facility in virtually every school, with one more happening this September. The standard of education here is such that the educators have no doubt whatsoever that this will not have a detrimental effect on children at all. Certainly not in their education. And remember that education isn't just exam results.
So if it does work out at around 169, 170 full days in education per student, basing it on a child attending school between 5 to 18, if Gibraltar pupils are receiving around 20 fewer school days each year compared to the UK, that would amount to around 260 fewer days of schooling over a child's education, which works out to more than a full academic year.
Except that is not the case. I don't agree with your maths.
Not the case, but compared to the UK, or?
Remember that we haven't lost that much because we were already having half days. Okay,
but that's taking that into consideration.
But we have to look at the practical effect, and the thing that people are worried about is academic results. But if you look at academic results, which really affects years 10, 11, 12 and 13, year 11 and year 13 leave school in May anyway, and we've made sure that the term officially ends at the 30th of June, which is after exams are over, so teachers can still be accessed by the students, okay? And so really, in effect, for examination years, all we are looking at is 7 half days that they are losing at the end of term. It really isn't that significant.
The UK and EU have agreed details of a new food exports deal, which would signal the end of the so-called Brexit sausage wars. The Guardian reports the agreement means there'll be no more paperwork or physical checks on dairy, fish and fresh meat products as from summer 2027 for British exporters to the EU and vice versa.
Brexit brought about new border checks, veterinary certificates and customs paperwork for animal checks being imported or exported between the UK and the EU. In what appears to be further progress in recent reset talks, these will now be done away with, meaning it will significantly ease the burden of trading arrangements for supermarkets and food producers. The same will also apply to plants and wood packaging material. While on the UK side of the border, checks weren't fully implemented on the assumption that imports from the EU were already of certifiable standard. However, goods flowing out of the UK and into the EU were subjected to 100% paperwork checks and 30% physical checks. The UK government has described it as great news for British food and drink businesses. It also means an end to long delays whenever a certificate was found to be missing. For Gibraltar, which relies heavily on imported food products from both the UK and the EU, any reduction in delays and paperwork could help improve supply chains and ease pressure on costs for businesses and consumers alike.
You're watching GBC News. Still to come, the reopening of the City Under Siege exhibition in the Upper Rock. And we tell you why MedSteps is likely to remain closed for a few weeks. We'll be back in a few minutes. You're watching GBC News. Restoration of the City Under Siege exhibition in the Upper Rock has been completed, with the tourist attraction now reopened to the public. The exhibition tells the story of Gibraltar during the Great Siege and has been transformed by a specialist restoration team, all while ensuring historical accuracy is preserved.
The refurbishment includes enhanced interpretation, a new maintenance schedule to support long-term care of the site, alongside new original artefacts donated by private collectors, and a garden area. The upgrade is said to offer a more engaging visitor experience that helps people have a deeper understanding of Gibraltar's past. The City Under Siege exhibition works were expected to take between 8 to 10 weeks after beginning in September 2025. But 8 months later, the tourist attraction has just reopened. The exhibition previously underwent refurbishment in 2022. So why was it needed so soon, and what changes have been made?
That was a small-scale one. It was a small-scale one with just renewed the exhibition that was already there, that was a little bit dated, so that we could get it going again and visitors could come. But it really needed a lot more. It needed a lot more work. It needed structural work. It needed revealing other things. It needed a more interpretation of the history of the site and the history of Gibraltar as seen from this site. So it really required something new, and this is at a completely different level.
Works ended up taking longer than expected due to careful restoration of the roofs in the magazines. But during the process, new discoveries were also made, including an olive press and historic graffiti. Wright Tech was responsible for the restoration. Christian Wright said they modernised the exhibition while protecting its heritage.
When it comes to the modernisation, I think you don't need to overburden these spaces with technology or anything that could be considered, fanciful in the way that one tells the story. The story itself is what's important. The space, the history, it's palpable here. So we use the real voices of contemporary witnesses like Miriam Green, Samuel Ansell, John Drinkwater to help tell the story, to give you a humanized connection to the space.
The refurbishment forms part of ongoing improvements in the Upper Rock to enhance Gibraltar's tourism offering and strengthen the appeal as a visitor destination.
There's been a lot of work already in the past few years renovating a lot of the new sites. As you know, the World War II Tunnel has proved a huge success. From a marketing perspective, the tourism industry has taken to the new products with excitement. So this is a new jewel towards an existing fantastic service already.
The Chief Minister, Fabian Picardo, was also at the opening and told GBC that the works were not at a cost to the taxpayer.
Just like all of the other areas in the Upper Rock, they're all being refurbished to the highest international standards, what tourists would expect to see, something that they will be impressed by and something that they will learn from. And not just tourists, also our young people. And all of it, and this I think is the most important thing, all of it done without taxpayers' money, in the way that we're working with the private sector to ensure that they can deliver these new sites refurbished to that international standard without the taxpayer having to invest anything.
And as the summer season gets underway, visitors and locals alike can once again step back in time and experience an exhibition rooted in Gibraltar's history.
And staying with the Upper Rock, MedSteps is likely to remain closed for a few weeks while a technical team assess the damage caused by a rockfall this weekend. The Minister for the Environment, John Cortes, says they're working to make the site safe to reopen as soon as possible.
I haven't had the full report back. They are confident that it can be dealt with and made safe. We may have to break the boulder and remove it and to make safe the walls. I'm hoping to have the full report later on this afternoon. It will be probably a few weeks before we can open it again, but open again it will.
Yesterday, a boulder dislodged, causing substantial damage to a wall on the popular trail. A walker caught the moment on camera. The Med Steps is now closed and access will remain prohibited to allow for necessary mitigation works to be completed. The Upper Rock Nature Reserve says the safety of residents and visitors remains its highest priority. Visitors are urged to respect all closure notices, barriers and signage in place and to use alternative designated routes. Further updates will be provided as assessments progress and additional information becomes available. Around 1 in 100 children in the UK are formally diagnosed with autism. And while we don't have local statistics, families say awareness and support through diagnosis can make all the difference. Awesome Autism Awareness held a fun day at Casemates yesterday to raise funds for Little Smiles.
So we're here at Casemates Square for AAA for the 12th year running, I think. It's a great success. It's a bit warm, but we're keeping everybody cool. Lots of people have turned up. The team of teenagers are running the games. The fire brigade are here. St John's in support. We have all the fantastic bands, 2 jumping castles, some new hook and duck. And yeah, it's a fun, very inclusive, interactive day for all.
This year's Stay and Play and summer sports programmes will begin on Monday the 6th of July, following changes to the school calendar, which will see the academic year end on the 30th of June. Sport Minister Leslie Brousson says both schemes will run with their usual timetable and range of activities, with full details to be released during an official launch on the 8th of June. Parents with children enrolled in Stay and Play will receive information through the usual channels. Community care domiciliary services will support the Stay and Play programme by providing carers to help children participate in a safe and inclusive environment. Possibilities will again partner with the Sports Train programme, helping children from school learning support facilities take part in activities. Over to sport now. Motorcyclist Julian Cipollina triumphs in Jerez, Special Olympics return from Switzerland National Summer Games with medals, and controversy in futsal's Rock Cup. But first, basketball. Here's Josemari Ruiz with the latest.
Gaba's under-14 girls finished runners-up in the Cadiz League after a tough final away to Chiclana, losing 84-39. It was a game of 2 very different halves. Gaba started brightly, leading 16-13 after the first quarter, but Chiclana took control in the second and never looked back. The home side were ruthless after the break and ran out comfortable winners on the day. It takes nothing away from a remarkable debut season, Gaba's first back in the competition, and they went all the way to the final.
We were lucky in one way and unlucky in another, in the sense that we got drawn into a tougher group than Group B. But then again, we made it all the way to the final, so irrespective which group we were in, we would have made it anyway. So on the whole, yeah, positive experience. I mean, we are going to have to up the intensity of our training, focus on the details, on the fundamentals, which today, you know, we weren't sharp enough, we weren't accurate enough on our passes, and we generally lack composure, so those are things we'll be working on.
To the world of motorsport now, and what a weekend for Julian Cipollina as he claimed a double victory in the Campeonato d'Andalucía over at the Circuito de Jerez. The motorcyclist won both the sprint race on Saturday and the main race on Sunday, his first win since 2018. To top it all off, Sunday's win came on his 25th birthday, a memorable one for sure. Special Olympics Gibraltar's bowling team have returned from Switzerland's National Summer Games with an impressive medal haul. Glenn Wimbledon and JJ Buttigieg both took gold in their respective singles groups. Adam Stewart claimed bronze in singles, and he then teamed up with JJ for bronze in the doubles. The team then rounded off the competition in style, taking gold in the team event. 4 athletes, 5 medals. Now, we were supposed to have a Futsal Rock Cup champion this weekend. Saturday's semi-finals saw Lynx FC beat Bavaria and Europa FC win over Inter Gibraltar, and the final was scheduled to take place the following day on Sunday, but was postponed after it was brought to the GFA's attention that Europa had allegedly fielded an illegible player in the semi-final match. The outcome of this is yet to be decided.
And the Gibraltar Football Association has handed Scott Wiseman a new 4-year contract as men's national team head coach. Wiseman, who's been in charge of the national side, says it's a tremendous honour to continue in the role, and he'll be back in the dugout this week for 2 international friendlies at Europa Point Stadium as Gibraltar take on the British Virgin Islands on Wednesday, followed by the Cayman Islands on Saturday. Well, you've been watching GBC News. We play out with images from this weekend's Teddy Bears Picnic in aid of research into childhood cancer. Enjoy your evening from the news team. Good night.
Go down in the woods today is sure of a big surprise. If you go down in the woods today, you'd better go in disguise. For every bear that ever there was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic. At 6 o'clock their mommies and daddies will take them home to bed, because they're tired little teddy bears. Because they're tired little teddy bears.